I think that the idea that you only live once is pretty somewhat inspirational. It makes you want to live each day. It makes you want to get out and do everything. But, you know, the way I say it, you die once. You only die once, but you live every day. And I think we have to sort of treat each day like a new life in order to truly find some satisfaction in how mundane things can get. Because what I've realized is, you do the same thing over and over again and you lose appreciation for it. But it's not that the thing isn't as significant, it's that you don't view it as significant anymore. It's about adjusting your perspective to your given circumstance and learning to appreciate where you are regardless of what it looks like. It's not every day that you encounter your friends, or you might see them every day, but you might not learn to appreciate them. You might not learn to appreciate the time you have with yourself. And I think it's very important to do so. You know, I find that once you're able to truly like break down your walls when it comes to your expectation, then you learn to appreciate where you are. And once you get to a point where you appreciate where you are, then you have no reason to complain. You have no reason to feel bad about your circumstances because you've accepted them and you've tried to find the beauty within it. And what I found out is beauty exists in everything, and it's always sitting right there in front of us. We just have to open our eyes to see it. You know, I always said that there's like so much in front of our eyes, but it's very true. That appreciation, that life, that love that you have for yourself and your surroundings always exists. Just like I said, if you're beautiful one day, you're beautiful every day. If the outside is beautiful one day, it's beautiful every day. It's just about being in the right mindset to interpret and take in that information, which I feel like we don't do often. And I don't necessarily know if it's a presence issue or it's a we can't escape our minds issue, but I think it might be the latter. I find that when it comes to our mind, we get very caught up in situations that we can't impact, at least in the moment, in my opinion. We spend a lot of our time focused on things that aren't necessarily in our hands, but we keep them in our mind. We allow them to plague our character, and we treat it as if it's part of ourselves when we allow our emotions to be dictated by stuff that's not inherent to our character. Like, I had a situation yesterday, unfortunately, that made me like, for a good hour, I was set back. And it was a good day. I had a great day. But for an hour, I was set back just because of one small circumstance. But, you know, as days pass, as time passes, you realize that your stress and your worry about these situations doesn't help them get solved. It just helps you realize that you're stressed. It just helps you get in that mode of you lack something. When in reality, you have everything to gain. Things always get better, and they always tend towards better things. And that's what I've realized. And it's not necessarily about just telling yourself that, but feeling it. Understanding that how you intend to be is typically how things come out. Like, if you keep a positive intention about your life and about your goals and about whatever you're doing, then you'll find that negativity won't hold you back, because you're allowing yourself to accept not necessarily accept, but you're allowing yourself to be positive regardless of your situations, regardless of whether or not it's positive. You are the positivity making that thing in a way positive or neutral in a sense. And once you do that, it becomes less stressful, and an unstressed life is a beautiful life to live. And I think a lot of people can achieve that even with a lot of responsibility. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, because once you get responsibilities, once you get a lot of things on your plate, then you start to think, oh, life's serious. I have to take everything serious. I have to do this. I have to do that. And what I found out is you really don't. You just get to do something like, oh, I get to do this, and you get it out the way. If you really are dreading it and you really don't want to do it, then you do it. That's when you do it instantaneously. You get it out your way so you're able to relax, so your mind has the freedom to allow you to be there. If you're stuck in stuff you can do, your procrastination, your worry, and that's why I recommend doing work ahead of time, anytime. Once you get down to its deadline, once you get down to a point where you need it, that's when the stress comes in. That's when you stop sort of living life and start to live in that action and in that sort of regret for your past actions and worry about the future. And I don't think the future is something that should be worried about. As much as I've worried about the future, as much as we all worry about it, we're still at this point now and we're still tending upward. You know, we're still growing. We still have more to learn. We still have more to see. And that worry has not gotten us to that place. Our positivity has. Our continued progression and perseverance through whatever life has thrown at us. And that's why I feel like it's important to live life every day. To realize that it's something that you don't necessarily have to put on the back burner, but you can put on the forefront of your expectation. Expect life. That's all. You know, once you do that, then you realize that everything truly is a gift. You know, each day you wake up is a new opportunity, a new day to live an entirely new experience. You know, you can see a certain person, you can do a certain thing, you could do nothing. You can sit there with yourself and figure out more about yourself. Regardless of which, there's always a lesson, there's always something that you can gain from your day, regardless of if it's a direct thing or not. You can learn that you just like to be with yourself. You can find a new song, you can find a quote you like, you can find a food you like. You can find anything. You know, you can go outside and find a view you like. It's just about realizing that there's so much potential for your day and so much potential for you in every endeavor and every crack and crevice of your life. It's just about being intentional with it, intentional with your care about yourself enough to want to provide yourself with certain experiences, want to provide yourself with a certain level of understanding about yourself and the world around you to make yourself extremely comfortable with whatever's thrown at you. And I realize I've gotten a lot better at this, at least in my opinion. When stuff negative sort of happens to me, I kind of not necessarily set it aside, but I look at it. You know, if you truly look at something void of emotion, void of this, and you let your guard sort of drop, you know, allow it to be, and stop trying so adamantly to disagree with it. Instead, just like accept it for what it is, and see what you can do from there. And once you do that, then you realize there's no point in really worrying about it. Like if you get a hole in your tire, then you just go get it fixed. It's one of those things. And if you don't, you find a new mode of transport. You know, you just make do with what you have and appreciate regardless of how it is. If you stop living in comparison and stop comparing this thing to that thing, then you'll find that, you know, even the smallest things are sufficient. It's just our mind that makes things, you know, overzealous and greed and whatever else is inherent to the human character. Regardless of which, I think it's just important to be there with yourself and understand that, you know, life is something that's supposed to be lived, not something that's supposed to be just watched or anything like that. It's your experience and it's your time. It's your opportunity to sort of see what the world has to offer and sort of instantiate yourself as a character, not necessarily to the whole world, but to yourself. Sort of give yourself the liberty and give yourself the validation enough to write your own story. And in my opinion, all that takes is awareness and acceptance. Accepting who you are, and once you truly accept who you are, you understand the things you do a little bit better. Then you understand how to tweak them. You understand how to sort of formulate it in a way that's better for you. And it's truly about adaptation to your environment. You know, understanding when you do certain things, understanding how much you can impact and how much things can impact you. And once you do that, that's when I feel like it truly comes into fruition when it comes to your goals, your ideas, your manifestations, and whatever. Because if you're able to keep a positive outlook on the world in the midst of all the chaos that ensues, then you'll find a way. You know, in the same way that like attracts like, if your foundation is stable and you're positive, then you're gonna find a positive path. If you're on a negative tinge, if you're constantly focused on the negative, then you're only gonna find more negative ways to address your issues. And I find that sort of rabbit hole only puts you in a greater predicament once you get to a point where you can understand your actions better. Because there are plenty of things in my past that I'm like, oh, I could have done that so much better, but I can't live in that. You know, you can understand the lesson and move forward and understand that who you are is changed, or who you are is changing, and it's better, you know, but it's ultimately about your opinion of yourself. You know, you have to truly be honest with yourself when it comes to your betterment and understand, like, when you make mistakes, you have to, you know, do what you can to mitigate them, but move forward nonetheless. Understand that, you know, life is too short to be living. Each day is a new life. You know, you have another chance to restart, another chance to try again. Maybe not with the same people, not with the same situation, but you have to realize life is more than those subtle instantiations of negativity and positivity. Life is everything that you do, regardless of how you view it, how you do it. You're living life, and you just have to decide whether or not you want to live a life that's free, that's happy, that's, you know, you. Otherwise, you're living in some other person's definition of it. And you know, sometimes you have to bend a little bit. Not to say that you can't achieve certain things, but to say that you have to have a certain amount of presence and patience for life. It's gonna give you what you need, but not necessarily what you want. And the time is truly dictated by how open your mind is to its possibility. You know, if you view yourself as a rapper before you release your first stuff, you might release it a lot sooner than, someone who takes the time and sits there and develops and questions whether or not their art is sufficient enough for these people. But the truth is, all you have to do is worry about if it's sufficient enough for you, and be honest with yourself, because what you put out, once you find a certain comfort with it, a certain idea, then you realize that, there's so much more to what you can do. There's so much more to who you are than just your expression. And there's so many different ways you can express yourself to understand more and more. And once you come to that realization, then life is truly an adventure. Sometimes you have ups, sometimes you have downs. But sometimes your downs just are there to show you how up you were, and how if you stand up again, you can get even higher. I feel like us as humans are constantly on a progression upward. We're constantly in a headspace of, I want to get better, I want to do this, I want to gain more, I want to do that. And I feel like if we want to gain more self, then we lose nothing. Like, there's no greed to that, in my opinion. Of course, take care of yourself. Don't treat yourself like a project, treat yourself like a person. And that's something I had to realize, because if you treat yourself like a project, then it starts to be less intimate. It starts to be, oh, I'm doing this for this, I'm doing this for this. Instead, I'm doing this to do it. I'm doing this for me. And I feel like any self-love is unconditional and has no expectation. You don't love yourself to get your reward. You love yourself because you should. And I think that's what's really important. Self-love on a daily. So if you made it this far in the video, I hope you're telling yourself you love yourself. I tell myself I love myself every day. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, being true to yourself, and realize that there's a lot more to life than meets the eye. There's a lot more to you than meets the eye. So make sure you're being conscious enough to look and not observe, see all the parts of you, and allow them to sort of exist in harmony. Whatever parts is in discord with you, then you tune them into what you want. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, if you didn't, thank you anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you didn't, I'm sure I did. So keep being y'all, keep being great. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're being honest with yourself and true to yourself. All in all, thank you.